Throughout China's tumultuous dynastic history, one catastrophic event reduced China's population by more than half, caused by the instigator's greed, political tensions, and the society's cultural background, evoking a massive political upheaval and existing as the largest massacre in the world until the Second World War, is the An Shi Rebellion. Around the legendary date of the founding of Rome, this single conflict killed 33 million people, equivalent to a sixth of the global population and 2/3 of China's population at the time. So let's have this figure represent a single person. That would make this 100 people, and this 800 people. Multiply that by 62 and suddenly we've got 50,000 people. Multiply that by 4, again, again, and again. And this shows 13 million people, yet it can only represent half the casualties. In the autumn of China 712, we have Xuanzang of the Tang dynasty being crowned emperor. For the next 43 years, he rules as a diligent and astute ruler with capable advisors. Xuanzang ushers a China under the Tang dynasty into its golden age, and as China enjoys wealth and prosperity, he lets down his guard. In an attempt to woo back his favorite wife, Yang Gufei, he gives her favorite general 160,000 troops. This was An Lushan, future instigator of an 8-year rebellion. Due to a land dispute with Yang Guzong, in 755 An Lushan declares war. Leading the very troops gifted to him by the emperor, An Lushan sweeps from the city of Fenyang towards the Tang western capital of Chang'an. Xuanzang pulls troops away from the border to deal with this inner turmoil, a tactic which ends up failing. Reducing border patrols also allows neighboring countries and tribes to attack and loot border villages and towns. Within 2 years, Xuanzang is forced to flee to a mountain sanctuary. The emperor's personal army demands the deaths of both Yang Gufei and Yang Guozong, blaming them for the uprising. With the army on the verge of mutiny, Xuanzang is forced to agree, ordering the suicide of Wang Guozong and the suffocation of Yang Gufei. By 756, An Lushan had declared himself emperor and taken over the capital city. If he had survived, the revolt may have succeeded, but An is murdered by his son in the following year due to his own paranoia and violent persona. However, that son was then killed by General Shi Revolt, An Lushan's childhood friend and follower. This new general is also killed by his own son, Shi Revolt, who proceeds to declare himself emperor, although he fails to get full support from the other generals. A series of defeats has the rebellious generals defecting back to the Tang forces, and in the spring of 763, Shi Revolt commits suicide, ending 8 years of rebellion. If Xuanzang hadn't intentionally given General Lushan the power to perform a coup, 30 million lives and the Tang dynasty would have been saved. The key cause of this massacre is the psychological factor embodied in An Lushan's mentality and Xuanzang's easygoing attitude. An Lushan was adopted and rose to prominence by defending the border and gaining the emperor's favor. He grew up under the influence of multiple generals, experiencing battle while still in his youth. This created a man fueled by an eternal quest for more power, which led to the uprising. A secondary cause was a political factor. Tense relationships with nearby provinces forced Xuanzang to spread out his troops, leaving few in the vital cities. This lack of strong forces in centralized areas was what prompted An Lushan to begin his revolt in the first place. Easing An Lushan's ascent to power was a cultural factor. As Lushan marched his forces towards the capital, they met with little resistance. In fact, some people were even joining the revolt. A series of natural disasters and the tensions with bordering countries had many people convinced that the emperor had lost his mandate of heaven. A similar situation was presented in the early 1990s when America gave Iraq strains of all the germs Iraq used to make weapons. This gift ended up head-starting Iraq's biological weapons department and making weapons which were inevitably used against the US troops. We can learn from this to keep our friends close and our enemies closer so they aren't simply able to conspire an 8-year rebellion.